Hello everybody, this video now is a little insight into some of my thoughts and prayers in the last couple of weeks regarding my hair. I'm about to go into the city centre to have a barber cut my hair short, and I want to give you some insight into why I've come to that decision. It's got nothing to do with certain individuals in the last few days being unkind to me on YouTube, but it is to say that there are biblical reasons why I've decided to have a haircut, but it's not for the reason that you may think. To be honest, I've never thought so much about my hair. In the last few weeks, I've thought more about my hair than I have in my previous 43 years on the planet. I've kind of, I suppose, been surprised by how much of an issue it has been for some people. Apart from this unkind person who wanted me to know that it was shameful for me to have long hair, and I'm going to address that in a minute, there's also other people that seem to think that a man having long hair is some kind of indication that he's been led away from grace and some kind of return to Hebraic Jewish roots or something like that. And it's just blown my mind that that's what some Christians think. I want to give you an insight on how this relates to the utter dishonouring of the Bible, not just in the world, but within those who purport to be the church. Right, well, I've just got back from the barbers. What do you think? Do you think I look more masculine? Do you think I look less shameful? Now, I want to, it's tongue-in-cheek what I say there, because I know that most of you listening, watching, won't think that. But it has been a bit of a revelation to me in the last week or two, the extent to which some Christians, so-called at least, think that it is shameful, think that the verse 1 Corinthians 11:14 means that if a man grows his hair long, that it's somehow against nature, and that is somehow, even in some people's minds, comparable to Romans 1, where Paul uses the same word of nature. Doesn't nature itself teach you that it's shameful if a man grows his hair long, and that somehow that would be comparable to the kind of delusion and sin and immorality and degradation in Romans 1? Now, that's not why I got my hair cut. Well, I don't believe that it's wrong for a man to have long hair. I don't believe it's a moral issue. I don't believe it's a sin issue. If you're a man and you have long hair, I don't think it's sinful. I don't think it was sinful for me to have long hair. And this video now isn't to explain that theologically, biblically, exegetically. I put a link into the show notes and you can listen to that short podcast. It's been particularly the transgender agenda that has been on my mind. And we are in a world, men I'm talking to now particularly, we are in a world in which gender has never been under attack in the way that it is today, and I would say that of children. Children are abused by the state when they're told that they can change their gender or that gender is fluid. And I've covered that in other pieces, but it's to make this point that in our culture today, masculinity has never been so important. And I thought about this. Would I be more masculine if I had a short haircut instead of a long haircut? Would that make me more masculine? Would I be less masculine if I shaved my beard off completely? Or if my hair was even shorter than it is now? And so we're dealing with various different unknowables here, aren't we? Who says what constitutes long hair for men and whether it's too long, whether it's shameful, and similarly for the length of a woman's haircut? But it's simply to make this point that where masculinity, and of course femininity as well, but I'm talking to men at the minute, where masculinity is under fire by the devil, who has sought to disintegrate the family unit and what constitutes masculinity and femininity, what constitutes the family, what constitutes marriage, what constitutes gender. the rudiments, the basic building blocks of civilization. And I think it's incumbent, therefore, and this is my conviction before the person had attacked me recently to say I was shameful. It's incumbent upon us, not even though I don't think it's immoral or sinful to have long hair or women, but to be able to preserve the gender distinctions as much as possible. And the appearance of things is important. What do I mean? Well, because I am able to look at the world that we're in, see the work of the enemy, the schemes and strategies, no less, of Satan, it's incumbent upon me, I think, in a way today, in a way that it wasn't, say, 15 years ago, to preserve what it means to be a man, masculinity. In other words, if in any sense, if we're in any way, my longer haircut seems to pander or add any kind of question mark to the issue of my gender, say if I didn't have a beard, and say if my hair was even longer than it had been, and somebody saw me from behind, forget my masculine physique. I mean, you would never think I'm a woman for that reason alone, and that's why people that think they can change their gender, it's immediately obvious by things that you cannot change, like the structure of your face, the structure of your skull. It's obvious immediately, in almost all cases, whether somebody is a man or a woman. And so it's to say this, that my conviction wasn't that it was sinful for me to have long hair, but that there was a responsibility on me to be as far away from any kind of the spirit of the age of today as I can be. In other words, I don't want to give any sense of credence. I don't want to give any sense of question mark to the transgender realities that we are living in, that people of 10, 15 years ago simply weren't living with, you know? And so biblically, what do I mean? Well, this is the principle here. Take a look at this verse. All things are lawful for me, but not all things are helpful. If you read the NIV, I think it is, not all things are permissible. All things are lawful for me, but I will not be dominated by anything. And Paul then goes on to unfold that thought with reference to food for the stomach. The Bible doesn't prohibit long hair. I don't think that's what the Bible is saying, and I think it's legalistic, poor Bible handling. Look what Paul says here. All things are permissible or lawful for me, but not all things are helpful or beneficial. And that's my conviction. It's as simple as that. I don't think it's helpful. I don't think it's beneficial for Christian men today to have long hair. Now that's different. It's quite different for that being a sin issue. I don't think it's helpful. I don't think it's beneficial for men, masculine men, who are preserving the difference between the genders, the God-given, the God-made distinctions between men and women. I don't think it's helpful to have long hair. In the same way that I don't think it's helpful for men to wear skinny jeans or to be metrosexual in other ways. I know there is a degree here of subjectivity. What for one man might seem a bit metrosexual to another man might not. Metrosexual, bordering on being a bit feminine, bordering on being a bit kind of mincy, a little bit kind of effeminate. And the Bible deals with being effeminate very strongly. I'm not going into all of that now, but the principle is that all things are permissible, but not necessarily beneficial or helpful. And I want what I look like, regardless of what I might think about any given style, I want my life in every aspect to be helpful, beneficial for the building up of the church in love. So that was my conviction before I was attacked about this last week. But let me just share this with you now that came to my attention a couple of days ago that just emphatically underlined why this is so important and why having a haircut, something as small and insignificant as that, really is just child's play in the context that we're all living in. Back in 2017, I worked for the Scottish Bible Society and resigned after about, I think, 6 months, I can't remember. One of the reasons I resigned is because of compromise. Compromise when it comes to the Bible. Now, for there to be compromise by a parachurch organisation that are supposed to be all about the Bible, when there's biblical compromise in the context of the Bible, it is particularly dishonouring. It's a joke. And so I resigned and whatever. But before I resigned, I was encouraged to have a little look at a project called The Pitch that was run and still is run by the English Bible Society, which is just simply known as the Bible Society or Bible Society. They're distinct organisations, but they all relate. Okay, so there's like a global family of Bible societies and so on and so forth. Anyway, so in my short tenure in this role for the Scottish Bible Society, I was involved in this thing called The Pitch, run by a guy called Luke Walton, and he's a former vicar, I believe, a C of E Church of England vicar, and I don't know anything about Luke personally, so I can't give a blow-by-blow account of what his ministry was like or whatever, or anything about him personally. But anyway, I worked with Luke just for a few days. I was on a judging panel for this. The competition or the project is, to all intents and purposes, separate from the Bible Society in that it's not necessarily found on the Bible Society's website, but it is a project of the Bible Society. The Pitch is a competition that invites people from no faith or any faith or whatever. You don't have to be a Christian. This is not a Christian thing. It's not a Christian project. And they're invited to pitch an idea for a short film. Okay? So candidates can pitch their idea for a short film, and if they're successful and they win £60,000, a budget or funding budget of £60,000 in order to fund the making, production, editing, so on and so forth, everything related to making this short film. And they've made some great stuff. They've made some really good things, really good short films. And in principle, I love the idea. I love the idea that you're using the Bible to invite and use it as an evangelistic thing. And I think probably Luke thinks that this is what it is, or hopes that. I hope at least that's what he thinks. That it will act as some kind of evangelistic tool whereby people are encouraged, forced to think about biblical narratives in order to adapt into something that could be a creative short film, whatever. Now, at the time, and again, 2017 to 2023 is a significant period of time for various reasons that I don't need to go into. At the time, I had concerns. I had concerns on a number of levels, and not least because of a sense of compromise in some of the films that were being considered as part of this competition, The Pitch. One of the ideas from one of the non-Christian candidates was regarding the prodigal son. Within the biblical narrative, there was this kind of cross-dressing, ladyboy type portrayal or depiction of one of the biblical characters that wasn't faithful to the scripture, wasn't what was going on in the Bible. And at the time, I just thought, and I'm sure I would have expressed this to Luke, that this is not right.
Lie low, sun won't burn your eyes. Nothing takes you by surprise. Living easy out of sight. Take off your disguise. Come stand under the light. Don't waste your life hiding, 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 hiding.
You still got crap taste in music.
It's a tough crowd.
What are you doing here?
I'm still pissing at your urinal.
I mean here in the feathers.
This is me now.
Doesn't my mates out there?
I'm not ashamed anymore.
This isn't right that the Bible is being used in this way as though it was just some kind of form of literature that could be adapted or given a modern interpretation, like is done with Shakespeare, for example. You know, you have the classic portrayals and depictions of Romeo and Juliet or Hamlet or whatever, and then you have modern day contemporary versions of that. Well, listen, that's okay for Shakespeare, but when it comes to the Bible, when it comes to the scripture, to start tampering with that in the hope of this being some kind of evangelistic major project of the Bible Society, that contributed to my decision to leave. Now, fast forward a number of years, and I have a little bit of correspondence with Luke for no specific reason, you know, other than I can't remember why now. But anyway, I've seen his email and this is in the last 12 months, I think. I'm trying to give you specific details and with a surety when I know that is a fact, okay? And to give a bit of grace when it's not. Now, I think within the last 18 months for sure, I've had an email and I've noticed under Luke's signature, he wanted to put his pronouns, he, him. Compromising, allowing these kind of pitched narrative ideas for films for this so-called Bible project from the Bible Society to encourage people to engage with the Bible and whatever, Bible advocacy, whatever that is. And then you've got the leader of that kind of going along with this woke spirit of the age where he somehow needs to stipulate his personal pronouns, his preferred personal pronouns. And then just in the last couple of days, as I happened to have a look at the website, now look at what's going on. Because of my concerns about what I'd experienced personally a number of years ago and the more recent sense of regression, I wanted to find out about the staff in the team of the pitch. I wanted to find out what was going on. This is the very first picture that I saw, the very first post that I saw on one of the members of staff's LinkedIn page. Check this out. Have a look, and it's celebrating LGBT. It's celebrating a man somehow deluded to think that he's a woman, living as a woman, and a member of staff of the Bible Society are celebrating that on their personal, professional LinkedIn page. What does this say? I wrote to the CEO about it. Can you not understand, Paul, why this was confusing? For myself and maybe Mary as well, looking in. Maybe I was considering putting a pitch. Maybe I, as a potential filmmaker candidate myself, maybe I was thinking about putting an entry into the pitch with some concerns in the background about Luke because of his felt need of putting his pronouns into his email signature and some concerns about some of the previous narrative entries that had been considered and then looking at a bit more detail about the staff leadership and then seeing that there's promotion of LGBT ideology that's abusing our children by telling them the lie that they can change their gender if they want to, promoting other people with mental health problems who think that they're an opposite member of the gender that they've been born biologically because of the Lord who's made them, the Creator God who's made them, that people just deny. Can you not see and understand, Paul, why there would be confusion here? What is your stand? What is your general stance on LGBT? The point remains that the Bible Society of England have staff working in their Bible projects who are promoting LGBT ideology that is tantamount to child abuse or affects that, contributes to that. This is exactly why I cut my hair. Because we live not only in a world, a Corinthian world, that thinks that they can tamper with things like marriage, gender, etc., etc., etc. The Corinthian river has infiltrated the church to such an extent, which, by the way, was the exact problem in Corinth itself in 50 AD, 55 AD. We now have, such is the problem, we now have biblical parachurch organizations in bed, if you excuse the phrase, with the enemy. Today, more than ever, it's important that men are men. Act like men, the Word of God says to us somewhere. You can find the verse. Act like men. And I think that although having long hair isn't necessarily acting as though you weren't men, as though you weren't a man, I think the principle is more important today than ever, which is that although it's permissible, is it helpful in the kind of context that I've just described? That's the question, and that's why I cut my hair short. God bless you.